Hi everyone! Welcome to my review of episode 6 of Amazon's The Rings of Power. In these reviews, I usually focus on the costumes if I have something new to add, and on the parts of the show that I find worth discussing, not on everything. But for this episode, I will talk more about the plot than the costumes just because there isn't much new. I will, however, add a few things about some garments, mainly Bronwyn's dress, since some of you were asking me to discuss her costume in more detail. As always, spoilers ahead. The episode starts with Adar and the orcs, and they are preparing to attack the villagers in the watchtower. He gives them a bit of a pep talk, and they go marching up towards the tower. And I noticed that apparently Waldreg is Adar's right-hand man now or something. He's in the front lines, walking by his side. He rose through the ranks quickly, didn't he? Lo and behold, there is no one at the watchtower. Except there is. And he shoots a few orcs, and then shoots a flaming arrow at some rope that was holding the whole tower together, I guess. He shoots it, and the whole thing falls apart. Did the villagers destroy the supportive structure underneath the tower somehow and rig this up? What are we supposed to think? I don't believe anyone knows, cast or crew, but in any case, the tower crumbles down, kills a bunch of orcs, and Arondir and the villagers get away. The villagers have already gathered down in the valley, and under the leadership of Bronwyn, the incredible military commander, they decide to go back to the village where they will fight the orcs. Yes, they just destroyed a fort, a much better strategic place, a tower made of stone with a bridge that you could have sabotaged or at least used the location to your advantage. But no, destroy all of that, kill a handful of orcs in the process, and go back to defending your wooden huts in an open field with no proper weapons or skills to wield them. That will be a much better idea, I'm sure. So I'll stop here for a moment to comment on Bronwyn's dress. I did mention in some previous video that it seems off to me that most villagers appear to be wearing sheepskin, layers, or something warmer or longer at least. But then there's Bronwyn in this light dress in a rich blue color that tells us that she is one of the main characters, of course. She's also often wearing this cloak, which... is it hers? Is it handed down to her from someone? I can't quite determine if it's this large and oversized because of the design choice or because it's meant to be someone else's hand-me-down cloak. But in any case, while I do like that they gave her a layer and something to keep her warm, I don't think it's a very practical layer. And fair enough, she's a healer, she never expected to fight, so why would her clothing reflect that? But she does find herself in a battle situation, so something that did stand out to me was the fact that she kept her cloak on throughout the battle, where it would be pretty impractical to have this long, oversized, flowy thing on you. I know I'm nitpicking here, since the bigger issue is just the design of the dress in the first place. They could have gone for a kirtle design, very basic, one type of fabric, fitted sleeves, medieval design, but she's just dressed so differently than all the other villagers in this dress with straps. I'm being extra critical of this show because it is the most expensive TV show in history, and with that in mind, I think it's fair if the audience expects quality in all areas. And yes, the costumes are not the biggest sin of the show, we're all aware of that, so let's comment on some other things. Next, we see the Numenorean ships on their way to Middle-earth, and our boy Izzy is hanging out with some horses, doing his chores. He even shares an apple with a horse. Yeah, just like it sounds, they share an apple. And this scene of him coming up on deck for some reason reminded me of Treasure Planet. It's not quite there, but honestly, even the design of the ships, the sails, are kind of similar to that cartoon. I don't know, I had a lot of associations in this episode to random things. More to come later in the video. So he has a talk with Galadriel, and then Elendil comes and he has a talk with Galadriel, which was the weirdest exchange ever. She asks him what happened to Izzy's mother, and instead of answering, he goes on some rant for half a minute about watching the sun rising and setting, and it's not like it's some clever metaphor or a segue into explaining what happened to the mother. It's just a few random words, and then after half a minute, before he walks away, he finally goes, "She drowned."
The sea is always right!
Well then... So anyway, in the Southlands, they're preparing for a fight, and it's all very... meh. It's funny because special effects-wise, the orcs don't look bad. They look like orcs. They're okay. But it's what they do and how the story unfolds that makes them look like some non-scary idiots that are easily defeated by some villagers with pitchforks. The orcs arrive to the village, and Bronwyn and some random women are hiding here, struggling to light the cart on fire. And one of the orcs finds them, kills the random woman. Obviously, she has no plot armor, makes sense. But it's Bronwyn who then kills the orc. And Arondir and some extra large orc get into a fight, but it's not really a proper fight, it's more like a tavern brawl for the most part, because the orc conveniently has no weapon, and they're just throwing each other around for a while. But of course, it's Bronwyn who saves the day. Girl power. Also, she gets wounded later, but it's okay, and I'll get to her meeting Mirel later on, because that exchange was something indeed. The Numenoreans are on their way to help, and something that looked odd to me was that they just charged across the field when they were still pretty far away. Now, this is a lovely shot, totally meant to evoke that image of Gandalf coming to the rescue in the Two Towers. Otherwise, lovely landscape. But it seems off since they're charging at nothing, really. Nothing yet. I get that they could be in a rush, but then again, do they know how dire the situation is? And if so, how do they know that? They're still far away from the village in the Southlands at this point. Does it make sense for them to be charging here? Obviously, I'm not an expert in battle tactics or anything like that, but this is something that immediately stood out to me as pretty strange. So, I don't know. Let me know. Did this seem strange to you too? Or is it normal? So eventually, the Numenoreans and Galadriel make their way to the Southlands, attack the orcs with a chain, among other things. Mirel and a few soldiers are waiting behind on a hill, and Izzy is there too because he's not allowed to fight because of his rank, I guess. But he kind of just makes his way forward to the front of the line, and Mirel goes, "Okay then, go fight. No questions, nothing. Just go." That one random soldier, a stable boy actually, and she decides, "Yeah, go ahead, you seem eager." I do like that they didn't actually make Mirel fight in this, and she's a queen and all, but you know my thoughts on this helmet. Theatrical, regal or not, I just don't like the design. I really think they overdid it with all the different symbolism on Numenorean armor, because they went for the nautical, for the fish scales, but also for the sun, and then for some of the horse imagery with those neck guards and with the helmets, and of course with Numenoreans being good horsemen or whatever is implied here. I think it would have been better if they just stuck with one theme, one symbol. Galadriel is being amazing, of course. I mean, you thought that Legolas was something. Well, let me tell you. This woman is dodging arrows, hanging sideways off a horse, stabbing orcs upside down. Look at how Theo and Arondir are looking at her, the mighty commander of the northern armies. But let me tell you a secret though. This is actually very accurate and exactly what we want to see, because all of us strong women in our free time, we do things like that. Secretly, when our boyfriends and husbands and kids go to bed, we practice these crazy stunts on horses, and we're so happy that we get to see ourselves represented on screen. This is what female empowerment is all about. This is what we've been waiting to see since forever. Now seriously though, here's something that I noticed about the Numenorean armor. Take a look at this short clip. Look at this area here. Do you see how light this fabric/scales are? It's all blowing in the wind, and it made me wonder, what are these scales supposed to be actually? Because they're clearly not metal or any kind of thicker material that would offer protection if they're so light. So if it is something light, is it there just for decoration? I don't know, I'm just putting this out there. I don't have any answers, I just have a ton more questions. And a few other things in regards to the Numenoreans. For example, in this scene, I cannot take him seriously with this helmet. All I could think was Asterix. And I was so glad when his helmet flew off. That was a relief. And this guy with the staff giving me Stella from the Winx Club vibes. Most of you probably don't know Winx, but tell me that this is not the same staff, I dare you. So after the battle, Bronwyn was shot through her shoulder, possibly through her lung, who knows, who cares, anyway she's fine. And Arondir takes her to meet Mirel, as if Bronwyn is the leader of the villagers. I mean, no one else was volunteering to lead, which is unlikely if we're being honest. But also, she just kind of got there because she shouted the loudest. Even though her leadership didn't do much and wasn't much of a leadership, she led them away from the village first with no food to the watchtower, and then, I guess with Arondir's help, initiated the destruction of said tower so that they could be slaughtered in their own little wooden sheds in the village. But Mirel is all like, I hear your people are alive because of you. Being a leader is not easy. Oh, I never asked to be a leader, says Bronwyn. Well, good leaders rarely ask to be put in that position. Yes, but was she a good leader though? Was she a good leader? Did she do much? Ugh, but wait, it gets worse. Because Mirel continues, perhaps I can relieve you of some of that burden. Oh, and look who's gonna lift that burden off her shoulders. It's Lord Hal, from zero to hero, from Halbrand to the king who was promised. That's what they refer to him, the king who was promised. I guess he can always go to Westeros if his Southlands reign doesn't turn out well, because actually it looks like he will be King of the Ashes here. Long story short, Waldreg uses the broken sword hilt that is a key and opens a floodgate, and some water runs through the tunnels that the orcs were digging, and the water runs down into a volcano, so it creates an explosion that makes the volcano erupt. The episode ends with all of them fleeing from the ashes from the lava that is running down the hill towards the village. Galadriel is just standing there, and how anyone is going to survive this is beyond me. But hey, maybe, just maybe, with all the member berries that we got in this episode and frankly all of the episodes, maybe they're saying they're casting the show into the fire. But also what I'm thinking is this Galadriel's vision or something? Did she fall from that horse when she attempted her stunts and she's been dreaming ever since? Or maybe Halbrand tripped her, not Adar, when they were chasing him? I don't know, guys. It's ridiculous. They shouldn't be alive, and this better be a dream or a vision. I don't even know what's going on anymore. It's not like it ever made much sense, but it's making less and less sense with every episode. I wanted to rant about a few other scenes, but I feel like this video is long enough and the stupidity of the plot is through the roof. There's some pretty visuals and occasional good lines, but everything is so hollow. But the series is almost done, so I guess that's good. As promised, when I finish this series, I'm going to add a couple of House of the Dragon costume reviews. I'm also sewing a few costumes at the moment. I'm hoping that at least one will be done by Halloween time. And there's some random videos lined up too, so thank you for watching. Please leave a comment to let me know your thoughts on the Rings of Power, and I will see you soon.